Dabbity bop, bop, bop. Okay.
Surrounded by friends and feasting, the table is set. We will sit down surrounded by friends and friends. Even the sparrow finds a place by your altar. Even the wanderer comes. Even the fatherless is embraced by the Father. Coming home, coming home, coming home, coming we will sit down, surrounded by friends.
All right, it is indeed Friday. I'm a little bit early. My schedule during these vacation weeks is a little chaotic. There are church things to do. There are family coming in. I try to adjust my schedule according to all of it, and so I don't know what I'll be able to do. Hence, I didn't assemble an estuary crew this morning. I just kind of looked around this morning to see what my adult children are going to be doing. Some of them are going to be working from my living room, and others of them are sleeping in, and others of them are at their jobs. So I thought, well, I can sneak into the office, do a little live stream. I don't know if I'll do it all the way to noon or not. I don't have an estuary crew assembled, so I thought I'd talk a little bit about the fact that I have, get up there we go. I have restarted writing on my Substack. The previous posting to this one
So
was
say we all.
March. I've decided that this is probably something I'm going to do more of, partly because one of the things that I realized, I've noticed years of doing YouTube now, that the medium is the message. The mediums afford different things. I recently had Jared Henderson on the live stream, and Jared does, I didn't know he was a YouTuber. He invited me to do a thing in Austin this coming spring, which I will do, and still have some more ideas about what I'm going to talk about. But when he does his YouTube, he has, nice 15, 20-minute compressed things, and that's a really good thing. Some of YouTube is nicely packaged, edited, polished video essays, and that's a fine thing, and it's a thing on its own. It doesn't tend to be what I do. What I do is much more rambly. I use YouTube to sort of think out loud, to get feedback from people, to get comments, to do all this kind of thing. So I don't know if I'll ever do anything else with YouTube, but I have, before I ever did YouTube, I did quite a bit more blogging, which involves writing, and writing involves sitting down and organizing your thoughts and sort of coming to a reasoned argument. One of the Substackers that I read quite faithfully is Richard Beck's Substack. Before he was on Substack, he was on WordPress and various other platforms. His experimental theology blog, which I very much like, and I've used it in past videos. He's been on the channel. I don't know quite what's going to happen to Living Stones in the next year. The financial question is, continues to loom, and at this point, the church obviously continues to want to keep going. The church wants to keep its facility probably as long as it can. The church wants to keep me as long as it can, and what this probably means is that at some point in the next year or two, I'm going to need to develop a new source of income. And so I've got a variety of things that are possibilities, but one of the sort of low-hanging fruits is Substack, where I would actually take more time to be rambly. And part of the reason for that is what I gain from rambling on YouTube are usually insights that I won't have them when I start the video. I don't know what the video is going to be about until I end the video, because as I go over material and rethink thoughts, I have insights, and then those insights sort of continue one video to another. And that's sort of what I've done. And I've also noticed just the different audiences, different things. So obviously there is a following the ranty, rambly, insight-provoking material that I do on YouTube. But much of my relational and professional and ecclesiastical community isn't going to sit and listen to an hour or two of me being all over the place while they watch the videos. And I've known that right from the start, because in some ways my YouTube channel started because I was listening to 2 hours of Jordan Peterson and getting insights and finding things that I thought were valuable and wanting to talk to someone about it. And many of my colleagues didn't want to talk about it because, quite reasonably, they have the kinds of jobs where they can't listen to 2-hour videos, or they're not spending a lot of time in the car, or they're not doing dishes, or they don't. I've noticed that, for example, when my wife and I travel, my wife and I love going on just these long road trips through the amazing American West. And I'm happy to put on an audiobook, and I can quite happily drive and listen to an audiobook and sort of do both those things. But my wife, she's like, if she's driving, she says, I can't really pay attention to the audiobook while I'm driving. I've just noticed that people are wired differently. And so I've often thought that if I want to connect with other parts of my relational network, my professional network, my ecclesiastical network, and sort of develop more influence beyond just my little YouTube channel, I thought it would be good to at some point write. But the thing is that writing takes time, and I sort of think there are two kinds of writers in the world. There are sort of vomiters and editors. I'm much more of a vomiter, which I think is probably obvious by my YouTube channel, where, no, it's probably not about the banner. Maybe I'll talk about the banner a little bit. Where like this morning, so I woke up early, usually holidays, family stays in place, and just sit around and talk and do things together. I like to sort of keep my wake-up hours about the same, so that when the holiday ends, it's such a living. My wife and the kids are gone, so I wake up early, and usually when I wake up early, I have a lot of thoughts, and so it's a good time. I got this Substack, took a little bit of time, maybe an hour and a half, 3 hours, something like that. And it had been on my mind from the continuing to process the Sam Harris, Ross Douthat conversation, which sent me back to the Sam Harris, Al Holland conversation. monetization. And while Substack has been pestering me for a long time to monetize, I haven't been really using the platform. And I have a love-hate relationship with Substack monetization because I tend to read a lot of Substacks. I do pay more for content on Substack than I tend to on YouTube, which is interesting. I don't know why. But, for example, I pay for Mary Harrington's Substack. I pay for Rod Dreher's Substack. I pay for Louise Perry's Substack. I have paid for Paul Kingsnorth's Substack, but he sort of put his on pause. Martin Shaw has lovingly given me a free version of his Substack, which I read. And he also sent me an advanced copy of his book. So part of what I'm thinking is that if I sort of go part-time with Living Stones because, how to actually sort of sift out my employment relationship with Living Stones is going to get interesting, because on one hand, I would do everything I already do at Living Stones for free because I love doing it. But the whole purpose of ministerial salaries, if you read the Christian Reformed Church Order, is to free up the pastor from not having to seek other employment. Well, if Living Stones is in a position where they can't actually afford to support me full time, then I am going to seek other employment, but I generally want to seek other employment that is going to allow me to do as much at Living Stones as I can. But that will also mean that I'm going to have to, unless I do other things like actually work for, I now and then get little intimations from other churches about hiring part of my time, and I've done that in the past. I've sublet myself from Living Stones to other churches and organizations that, for example, wanted to buy 10 hours a week. And that's sort of where the banner comes in. The banner put out a call for basically an interim editor, and I actually saw the rate of pay that the banner was offering and thought I could probably make more money on YouTube and Substack. So if the purpose is fundamentally making some income to relieve Living Stones of the burden of my salary, I probably would be better spent writing on Substack than in the banner, although if the banner wants to pick up some articles. I know Laura Copley is the interim editor, and I think she's going to do a terrific job. I really like Laura. So she's the interim editor. Now, what happens in terms of the banner looking for a full-time editor? It'll be interesting to see what that process looks like. The interim editor basically is sort of hired by the comms director at the denomination, and probably the executive, the general secretary. But when they do the full search for the regular editor of the banner, Laura probably has sort of a front seat because she's doing the interim, and if that goes well, that'll look favorably in terms of hiring her full time for the regular editor. We'll see when that goes out. I'll again think about if I want to throw my hat into that process. The thing about the interim editor position was it started right now, and I knew that right now I'm just busy between Living Stones and YouTube and Estuary and all of that to carve out another 40 hours a month to put into the banner. Just wasn't probably going to happen. If I would apply to be editor, the regular editor of the banner, which I think is still a part-time gig, I would have to really weigh that. But I don't have any experience putting together print media. I certainly have a lot of ideas, and I certainly have some experience writing. But I'm on the fence in terms of what I want to do with respect to the banner, and if in fact I would be just better served continuing to, if I'm going to do any writing, let's say doing it on Substack, and then hopefully I'm just always sort of weighted to think about book publishing until after I retire. Books are I don't know that anyone, well, let's talk about the parade of distribution of books. The vast majority of people who write books make almost no money from the book that they write. There are exceptions to that. But the reason you write a book is because you want to further develop an argument or an idea and you want to share it with the world. But economically, it's probably a losing proposition compared to doing things like Substack, unless you're a significantly major author. And then you've got the question of, you want to work with a publishing house who potentially could afford some things to you.
Can you hear both
But
people
publishing
say
has
it?
also been tremendously disrupted
And the guitar?
by the internet. And yet self-publishing sort of has a stigma about it. So I haven't sorted through all those things, and basically I decided a long time ago that if I was going to spend the kind of focused time in putting together a book, I'll probably wait until retirement and see what retirement looks like. So then I would have, what is retirement for me? What is retirement for my father? A lot of ministers don't really retire. They just don't have to do some of the administrative chores of running a church and taking care of a building. That takes a fair amount of my time here at Living Stones, is just picking up the garbage, putting in the garbage, fixing broken windows, opening gates, closing gates, just managing all of the stuff that a little church has to manage, a little church that has its own building. Because while we have a guy who comes and cleans once a week, at this point we don't really have much of a team in terms of property management. So a lot of that stuff sort of falls to me, which is okay. A lot of it's just little stuff, but I'm not particularly good at it. And so it just takes time. So yeah. So okay, well, let's talk about the Substack a little bit, and then maybe I'll drop the link, and then if anybody wants to chat, we can come in here and chat. Anybody who watched the video that I released on Christmas morning probably won't be too surprised by it. Actually, though, the first point that I want to make with the piece is that one of the important things that Tom Holland has sort of illuminates and articulates in his longer conversation with Sam Harris. Now, that longer conversation with Sam Harris, I assume it's behind the paywall in Sam Harris's podcast. When that was released on YouTube, I paid $15 so that I could have access to it, et cetera, and it was really an excellent conversation. One of the early points that Tom Holland made, which he didn't sort of frame it. I took it and sort of framed it a little bit more starkly, because I think it's really important right now in the current conversation with respect to Christian nationalism. Somebody sent me, the reason
Christian
I don't wear
nationalism
shirts is because they get a stroke. Recently somebody sent me a news clip from Paterson, New Jersey, where I'm from, where the mayor is sort of
Sharia law,
rating Paterson as, an Islamic city in America.
Sharia law,
and that sort of, I know some people from Paterson who are really annoyed by this kind of thing, and it raises all of these questions that are sort of going round and round about Christian nationalism. The point that Tom Holland makes is that there are really two historic Christian postures.
Can you hear the guitar and KVK or no?
And one of them, this has been raised in many ways by someone like Ayaan Hirsi Ali. This particular thumbnail and title I was particularly proud of. Atheism as AIDS to the secular public square. YouTube gave me an HIV/AIDS banner thing under that, even though stupid AI couldn't figure out that the video wasn't really about AIDS. But
that's just AI.
Metaphor, but it was fundamentally Ayaan Hirsi Ali in her journey from a rather aggressive, socially and politically aggressive Islam in Africa to Europe, becoming a celebrity atheist atheist on stage and just, missed by a hair, being one of the 5 horsemen of apocalypse in the book of Revelation, et cetera, but sort of missed being one of them because her argument was basically one towards and for liberalism and or what the liberalism that she enjoyed and appreciated in the Netherlands, and arguing that Islam should be stopped. And then over time beginning to realize that this sort of openness, liberalism, secularism wasn't stopping Islam and couldn't. So then she becomes a Christian, and seemingly much more along the lines of an evangelical Christian, and perhaps, as coined by someone, a utilitrad, where saying that what we really need is sort of an authentic Christianity to hold back atheism. And she has this debate, of course, with Richard Dawkins, who, interestingly enough, identifies as a cultural Christian, even though it's sort of a confessional atheist. Tom Holland brings up in that piece, most of what Tom Holland said in that conversation with Sam Harris, you can find in a variety of other Tom Holland conversations from about 8 months ago. This was about 8 months that they had the conversation. I expect a lot of these arguments to come out in Tom's next book about the 1960s, which I'm really looking forward to. One posture could be seen by Angela Merkel, throwing open the gates of Germany wide to a million Syrian refugees as an expression of Christian hospitality towards the alien stranger. Holland notes that while 1954 East Germans were moving west to escape, I had to do a little bit of research to pick this up, to escape communist enclosure,
Survival.
her father, a Lutheran minister, moved his family east to pasture behind the Iron Curtain for the sake of the gospel. One might see an inheritance
Social?
of a vivid gospel witness displayed in her leading a secular German nation to take 1 million Islamic refugees in their hour of need.
Wisdom.
Seeing Merkel's move as an expression of Christian charity, visibly dissolved, yet still potent within Christian secular culture, is very much aligned with Holland's main thesis. Christianity had stealthily hidden its moral DNA within unwitting heirs of Latin Christendom, with the outcome of even confessional atheists like Sam Harris, assuming that self-donating acts of human generosity are expressions of self-evident morality rather than a Christian inheritance. But of course, new atheism arises during 9/11 and is mostly about confronting, let's say, Islamic forms of, let's call it Islamic nationalism. Now, using the word nationalism here is, you have to be a little bit cautious with it, because part of what has to be included in this needs to be the rise of the nation state and the transition that happens in modernity, and especially in the 19th century, from, let's say, old style beer, sometimes enlightened despots, and then the rise of these democratic, multi-ethnic states like the United States, and then eventually England and France, and the rise of republics, and that whole tension in the 19th century that I've spent a lot of time.
Get out of here!
That I've spent a lot of time thinking about over the last few months, and I'm just finishing up that one book on the First World War. I want to check out a book on the Russian Revolution, because I don't know enough about that history. There's just a lot of European history, early 20th century history, that I wasn't enough aware of. But it has to do with a lot of these issues. And in that conversation with Sam Harris, Tom Holland contrasts Angela Merkel with Viktor Orban.
Tom Holland?
Of course, Rod Dreher keeps doing this regularly in his Rod Dreher move to Hungary, because this is the kind of resistance that Rod Dreher is seeking, the kind of Christian nationalist preservation that Hungary, to one degree or another, continues to pursue. Now, Hungary, of course, if you go back in the history of the 20th century, the Austrian-Hungarian Empire was one of the empires that sort of leaned against the Ottoman Empire, and for centuries sort of battled with the Ottoman Turks, stopped their advancement into Europe, and then
Never set your turkey on the Ottoman.
Man of Europe continued to sort of fall apart. Russia and the Austro-Hungarian Empire really tried to sort of gobble up pieces of it. That made England and France a little bit nervous, provoking the Crimean War. But then when the Ottoman Empire basically collapsed during the First World War, England and France sort of rush in to try and gobble up as much of it as they can. Russia and Greece both wanted pieces of Turkey. Russia really wanted Constantinople, but of course, the Orthodox Russian autocratic rule of the czars fell apart before Russia could have. If Russia had been able to take Constantinople and own, that whole passage out of the Black Sea, the history of the 20th century would have been vastly different. But then you have the question of, obviously, Bolshevism and communism. And that's all a piece of what happens in kind of the complete undoing and catastrophic collapse of Eastern Europe. Now that will all sort of get pieced together, of course, after the Second World War, when victorious Stalin sort of occupies all of Eastern Europe and owns it. And then for a generation like myself, who grew up after the fall of the Iron Curtain,
Bolshevism,
still have a mystery about that whole world. And that whole world, the mystery is sort of being relieved now with the Ukrainian War, with the flourishing of Poland, with everything that's going on in Eastern Europe, and Eastern Europe sort of coming back into bigger conversations. But of course, Hungary sits right there. It's got a very unique history, and it's an interesting place. And you've got some Reformed Christian influences there. But of course, when the Austrian-Hungarian Empire was ruled by the Habsburgs, which were deeply Roman Catholic, so there's just a ton of history that's come back online since the collapse of the Soviet Union. And now where you have a self-conscious version of orthodoxy in Putin and in Russia, now fighting that Ukraine. I mean, there's just so much going on. And for part of this sort of arises these two postures where you have Angela Merkel that sort of expresses, let's say, a Wilsonian, a Roosevelt, but a European version of it that says, religion's no big thing. We can all be secular, and you can have your little religious silos. And so you have all of these agreements of certain forms of liberalism that say we can keep this going. But a later version, appearance of Tom Holland on trigonometry, basically says, you're really sort of projecting a lot of your own categories onto Islam. It doesn't have those categories. And I think right now, in terms of the rise of orthodoxy in the United States, orthodoxy doesn't necessarily have those categories either. Tom Holland, then in the Sam Harris conversation, as he does in other places, will then go back to the 11th century and this revolution that happens with the papacy in separating the secular from the sacred and creating, sort of laying the groundwork for secularity in the world. And the Pope's basically carving out a domain that says, we're going to continue to develop this separation of the secular and the sacred, and the papacy is going to be the father of the sacred, but we're going to look to princes
your
and
father.
nations to be the defender of the sacred within the secular realm. And that, of course, leads into, like, just continues to sort of fall apart in Europe in the modern period. The French Revolution being a very notable example. But even when you get to the First World War in French history, you know, there's so much anti-clericalism going on in France, especially in French politics, that, you know, for years, you know, let's say in the 19th century, before the First World War, obviously, where you have Italian unification, you know, the French basically stabilize Rome for a time, and the Vatican is looking to France and Austria and the Austrian Empire to sort of safeguard, to resist Italian unification, to resist Italy becoming a republic. And then eventually France comes in and sort of stabilizes the Vatican. But France at some point then loses interest, withdraws, and of course,
Draws.
the Italians come
Did
in,
you shit
take
your
Rome,
draws?
make it their capital, announce sort of a parliamentary monarchy, and the Pope becomes the Vatican, becomes the prisoner of the Vatican, sets up that whole history. And that doesn't end, of course, until the rise of Mussolini. And even though Mussolini has no real love for the church, but needs the church politically to secure his power in Italy, and the Vatican has no deep trust of Mussolini, but they enter into a marriage of convenience whereby they can establish a concordat where the Pope will no longer be the prisoner of the Vatican, and Mussolini will do some things that the papacy is looking for. We want priests back in schools. We want restrictions on theater. We want some more moral policing in the broader culture, in the broader culture. And while Mussolini isn't a king, there's already a king, the descendant of Victor Emmanuel. Mussolini isn't a king. He's basically a strong man. You know, you're also going to have the history in Spain of Franco, where basically the church and these fascist strongmen look at each other and say, we can work with each other, and maybe we can preserve influence of the church in this secular realm in exchange for a degree of blessing. We will bless you, Mussolini. We will bless you, Franco. And in the case of Italy, they even destroyed what had been an earlier adaptation of the papacy, which was the Popular Party in Italy, which was sort of an attempt to say, well, I guess Roman Catholics can now participate in the parliamentary system in Italy, and we're going to promote pro-Catholic candidates so that there can be Catholic influence in the parliament. One of Mussolini's conditions for making its deal with the Vatican was kill the Popular Party and back Mussolini, because the Popular Party was one of the biggest opponents of Mussolini, barring sort of his rise to autocratic rule. But of course, the papacy had long had a variety of close relationships with autocrats. That goes all the way back to Charlemagne, where in some ways this whole thing really gets going. So, of course, with what happens in the 20th century,
what are we doing?
the Vatican can no longer continue to condemn republics and democracy. And the Vatican will then, the Vatican II, will loosen its stance and soften its stance in a variety of ways. But now we're at a point where we have all these deep questions about liberalism, and we wonder, will these systems really work? And that leads us to sort of these two postures. And two great illustrations of them are Angela Merkel, who lets in 1 million Syrian refugees, and Viktor Orban, who says, no, we're not history. This is a bad deal. We're going to enforce our borders, and we're going to keep Hungary for Hungarians. And Roger, we'll let Roger into it.
Roger.
And of course, this is a very interesting history because if you go back and you watch, for example, the debate on Bill Maher between Ben Affleck and Sam Harris, you sort of see these two positions, and kind of like neither of them are arguing from a Christian point of view. You see secular variations of these two postures. You even see it in Richard Dawkins. And so this has been partly the civil war within New Atheism. I remember when I talked to this is why New Atheism sort of fell apart. Because Woke kind of came up and said, no, this is what, once morality became self-evident, then suddenly you have lots of differing self-evident moralities in competition with each other. And in my conversation with James Lindsay, Lindsay sort of laid out this is sort of why New Atheism could sort of stay united with, let's say, facing a common threat such as religion. But once the threat became sort of where is liberalism going, as seen sort of in the crisis around wokeness, well, then everything sort of comes apart. A really
you can
fun
tell
video that I've pointed to quite often.
that is out of tune.
They've renamed it, which they put an alien in the thumbnail, which I don't know why.
You know what that means,
kind
right?
of a funny thing, but that interesting conversation with Peter Boghossian and Michael Shermer and
Is that
forget his name right now.
it's objectively bad?
Watching this debate, which all of us have seen, Christians fighting amongst themselves over these issues tend to make the debate about the Christian posture towards the stranger and the alien, as I said, because they're really two.
The stranger and the
For a very
alien.
long time, Christian monarchs, Christian emperors saw it as their duty, and you can listen to King Charles III of England in his coronation vows, basically promised to maintain Christian civilization. Now, how serious he takes these vows, how he conceives of Christian civilization, is liberal democracy an example of Christian civilization? Now, eventually, someone like Abraham Kuyper is going to get into this conversation because, of course, Kuyper will make the arguments that actually democracy and principled pluralism, which is where Abraham Kuyper goes, is a version of Christian civilization. And
I think we need more savings
Abraham
throws.
Kuyper becomes a very interesting person because he is appealed to, at least within the Christian Reformed Church, by both sides of this debate. Certain conservatives love Kuyper, often outside of the Christian Reformed Church, but CRC progressives, many of whom are no longer a part of the Christian Reformed Church, I usually call them the exiles, they also appeal to Kuyper. Kuyper has so much in him, and he straddles so many of these things
Ooh,
that,
straddling.
will the real Abraham Kuyper please stand up? So I hope to get into some of these issues as I develop this line of argumentation. And this is going to require something of me. It's going to require discipline that unlike what I usually do with my videos, I see the next shiny new thing and then I run after it. But hopefully with Substack, I can continue to develop some of these ideas. All right, I am going to drop the link. Let's see.
He's dropping the link.
And I don't know how long I'm going to go here, but
should I go over
we
there?
can let people in, and maybe we'll see what you want to talk about. I would like to talk about these ideas if I can, but we'll have to see how strictly I police them. So, Yeah, I haven't been keeping up reading the comments. It's hard to monologue and read the comments at the same time. Yeah, that's true, Phlebas. Sweating bullets. Although it's fun to see. There's a certain Stephen Grindanis who left a good comment here on the Substack, which yes, maybe perhaps someone's secret identity. Who knows? There it is. What's up?
Whoa.
You got a song for us, Chad? You got your guitar right there.
No, I don't, but I think my thing is like, here, let me put my earbuds in because it seems to be
Not pretty good.
Yeah, but on my end it's like shite. I'm trying. Sorry. Hang on a second. Oh yeah. There we go. Oh, look at this. Check this out. This is Merry Christmas. We are streaming yours onto my channel via a phone. I just played guitar over your whole monologue. I have no idea what you said. But something like modernity and the Turks and gravy with stuff. Something like that. I can't remember, but something to do with Substack, which I've been doing a little bit of myself, and I actually enjoy it quite a bit. Yeah. We did. It was really wonderful. We had we went over to my in-laws and we had my mother-in-law made prime rib for the first time. It was outstanding. And then she made like shrimp scampi, and then we Carolyn loves like opening toys, and so I got her a harmonica, and we got her a drum and several books. And what else? Yeah, it was great. It was wonderful. And then we watched the movie something St. Louis. I'll call you when we get to St. Louis or something. Or it's an old movie from the 40s. It's with where the Merry Christmas song, Wishing You a Merry, or yeah, with Judy Garland. It was really good. I found myself actively trying to take mental images of the moments because they are very powerful. It's like I don't know. I just want to encourage people to have kids. Go have kids. Start a family. Try to learn how to not be a dick. Seek out God, help others, and try to really lean into it. It's most of that I'm failing at like constantly, but there's a tremendous joy that happens with becoming a father. We're having a Christmas party at the house here tomorrow. We're doing some cleaning up around the house, and actively trying to create family tradition. Last year we had the Christmas party at the house, and so this year we're going to have it again. But yeah, all that modernity has made it difficult in a lot of ways to maintain or even discover what old traditions were, I think. But it does support other things, so that it's interesting. There's a balance there of things that you can that are tremendous gifts and things that are not so tremendous. So yeah, survival 18. We got 18. Survival social 10. You get survive, half damage. Wisdom 9. Yeah, you suck. Heart 5. You also suck. You guys are so just thought we'd do that.